Hello and welcome back, all of you amazingly professional consumers of Pax Dei and Pax Dei related content out there. This is the sultry voice of Eltari, the professional gamer, and today is both an exciting day and also a sad day for me because it is the last day that the Golden City number 6 is going to be standing in its final form. And I wanted to do the city some justice. A lot of work, thousands and thousands of man hours have gone into building this incredible city for the community. And I wanted to take the opportunity to share all of the tiny little nooks and crannies and fine bits of detail that all of the builders in the Golden Company have really put the sweat equity in here to make a city that is immersive, detailed, and just a place where you can quite literally get lost in. And that's something that I can't guarantee we won't end up doing here as well. But this video, it's going to be hopefully about an hour long, and we're going to be going through almost every building in the city, talking about it and trying to highlight some of the less talked about, less seen areas of the Golden City as well. So we started off at the Petra Day and we headed our way all the way over to the Market Square. Now, one cool thing about the Market Square, if I zoom out here, we wanted to take some inspiration from the Pax Dei emblem, and you can kind of see that here in the Market Square as well, with the circular motif in the center and then the 4 quadrants. And this is very similar to other aspects of the city that you'll see, like our papal magnet, which we have had since I think GC 2 or 3. This is the 6th rendition of the Golden City, but kind of places of prominence, we tend to put these papal magnets up at high points throughout the city. So we always have those inspirations here, and this is just another location that we wanted to have that inspiration. Now, the Market Square is a place that we really wanted to be a place where people can gather and somewhere where it was really easy for people to know how to get to it. And pretty much after you walk through the north side of the Golden Isle, you'll pretty much end up at the Market Square. Another thing that, throughout all of these builds, the main thing that I challenged all of the Golden Company builders really to do is I wanted the city to be something where when you're inside of it, you can't really tell where you're at. You're just in the Golden City. And I really like what all of our builders did. They really ran with that. But either way, you really feel it here in the Market Square. Now, we've held many a farmer's market here for all of Carey's, and we've had probably hundreds of players all through here selling their goods and wares during those periods in time. And I'm going to be really excited when eventually these are going to be full with actual market stalls. And in fact, for GC7, the next build, we're planning on expanding this market space to really be more reflectant of wanting many players to come in and sell their goods and wares here. So for starters, we're going to take a quick little tour of some of these kind of market side houses and storefronts. And one of the cool things here, so this was built by one of our main builders. His name's Flans, and I kind of like his inspiration. To me, he's never, don't count this as a direct quote from him, but him and I, we used to play New World together, and all of these buildings that are kind of lining the Market Square here along this whole area, to me, kind of remind me of Everfall, which is from New World. And I don't know if that's exactly where he got his inspiration for these from, but pretty much the function of all of these different houses is supposed to be kind of a location where a player might, purchase or move into the bottom of the area and have their shop there. Now, this is still kind of a little under construction here. We didn't get to finish it beforehand, but you can see, like right here, for example, a player could have their little shop, their little storefront here, and then you can move up, and this can be more of a living area, a place where they can have a little space to call home, so they can kind of work downstairs and then have the upstairs to themselves. I believe this area did also have a downstairs, which just kind of leads to a little bit of an alleyway here, which I really, really like these kind of secondary entrances that players can get to. And all of these are kind of modular as well. People can, take parts of these out and make it so it's only the bottom floor. And, the bottom floor is still a storefront as well. So there's these multiple tiers to a lot of these structures, and I really, really like them. And we kind of carry this over to this area as well. Now, there's a little bit of a problem with trees. We were trying to build over the trees, so the bottom floors always end up being a little bit less than what we want them to be, just because, there's trees everywhere. But you can see, other than this nice wide open space up here, this was worked into being another large kind of open space for players to be able to call home. Now, to give a nice little picture of what it looks like outside, it's a nice little kind of entry point into the north side of the island. And to me, these are the kinds of things that it's small details that get added together. We're eventually going to become kind of like Julian windows here, or a place, I think it's actually called Juliet, not Julian, but a place where players can kind of, peek their heads out almost. Now, he was in the process of finishing the roofing here, and it looked like that there was going to be a little rooftop kind of situation. A couple of rooms up here also available for different players to kind of set up shop and have all of that. And you can see that here's a kind of complete version of the Juliet window like that. So all of these are supposed to be storefronts where players can kind of have their nice little areas to sell their wares and goods, and then they can live up on the top story. We're going to drop down here and take a step out now. So there are many places where you can kind of enter, and all of them, here's the Pax Dei over here, but I like how we had this kind of gate structure. Now, the last couple of times that we went through and did a Golden City, we tried to include some wall features that seemed to be in different states of disrepair. This one, since we had an entire island, we didn't really think it would make sense to also do a wall, so we just didn't. But now we're back at the little market square. So this building right here was one that I really, really liked. I believe Murdum, one of the Golden Company members, he didn't do altogether too many builds, but a really great kind of first entry point into building, I think. Now, his inspiration, he wanted to do kind of like a sundial or a clock tower or something like that. And my challenge to everyone is always, we want to build something that's medieval accurate, something that would be appropriate. Now, clocks didn't necessarily exist during the medieval times, so he did this really creative endeavor here where you'd have kind of a clock person, and there's all these different levers that could be pulled, and then these cogs would turn, which would then eventually turn the clock face, was kind of the thought process behind it. So really cool really cool creative building. Now, also connected to the market, other than some various housing districts and the like, which we'll take a brisk walk through here in a little bit, was also our beloved Regal Badger. Now, this is where all of our chefs, cooks, and brewers called home for the duration of the first part of early access, the last couple of months. And for this, we wanted it to feel like a place where people would come and get food and, just enjoy their time, a place to kind of gather around. So there was a lot of these really cool motifs, but then we also have all of the different spit roasts, and you can actually see someone's working on making some wolf sausage here, actually trying to probably level up their cooking discipline. Now on the inside, as it is food, and I do apologize for the lighting system here kind of wigs out, but we tried to integrate all of the different cooking stations alongside all of their respective storage bins and the like. Now for here, it's a lot of cooking on this level, and we did this really cool thing. So we do drop boxes where all of the different disciplines have drop boxes outside of their location so that members can go and drop off the resources for when they go and do their dailies. And I really liked this. This is the first time that we actually integrated it, where we put boxes inside the actual wall, so players didn't have to actually go into the cooking area and get lost in the proverbial sauce for depositing the materials that they found. So I thought that was really, really cool. And we ended up integrating that throughout the city, and you'll probably see it a couple of times to some way or degree. Now, if I go down, this is one of my favorite areas. This is the cellar for the Regal Badger. And we had all of these different fermenters down here, some barrels for making all of the different types of brews. We ended up actually having to expand the brewery outside, but I just really liked how this felt. It felt like a barreling room. It felt like a cellar. And I love it when things feel the way that they're supposed to. Now, throughout the various parts of the city, we do have these tiny little nooks and crannies. So whenever you're in a golden city, always go and check the various places. You never know where they might lead. And I'll show you all of the secret locations that we put into the golden city in this video, which there are a bunch. But continuing on throughout the Regal Badger, we do have kind of an overpass right here that links the two on the higher levels. But then over here, we also have our giant grain mills. So these grain mills have been doing the work for us. And I just really like, especially this one, look how creative this is. Like, this is so cool. We wanted to put a little bit more of a tieredness to it. So we built the grain mill on top of a bunch of foundations, but it feels like it's supposed to be that way. And they also feel like they actually are going to be collecting wind power too. There's a perfect spot for them on this little hill. Now, since we're here, we might as well take a look. This is the Golden Company's stables. Now, obviously horses are not in the game yet, but we wanted to kind of get our practice in now rather than later. And that's why we made a giant horse stall here and accompanying paddock on the other side. And there's a funny story about the paddock, which I'll tell you here in a bit. But one of the creative things that I really, really like, so Wormskull built this, one of the members of the Golden Company, and he had an idea to use the thatch roofs as hay. So all of these stalls actually have hay, like hay bales in them. And they're in various states. And then obviously when you have horses, you need a blacksmith area for the horseshoe making so that you can tend to your horse's health needs and put those horseshoes on them. And then there's also an area for, people to get water for their horses and just hang out here in the stables. And then we have our hay house right here with a giant bale of hay as well that players can come and get. And then obviously a second level as well. Now, clearly, if you have horses, you're also going to have a bunch of manure. So what better way to take care of that manure than to just come right over here to this little thing and drop your manure down into the area below. Now, another part of detail that I really like is you'll see there's literally smoke coming from this pile. That is because it's supposed to be a smelly pile of horse dung. So we went through the effort of making smoke come out of it. Now, clearly, there are just pieces of, I believe they're campfires underneath. Yeah, little cooking pots. But that creates the effect, and the effect makes the desired outcome. Now, I know you might be asking, can you jump down into this hay bale like in any Assassin's Creed game? And the answer is, it might hurt, but yes, you can. So, not nearly as safe as when Altair or some of the various assassins in the Assassin's Creed games jump into the hay bale, but hey, it works. So then there's a lot of different little nooks and crannies here, some storage bins for all of the various consumables we would assume are going to exist for horses. And a lot of this is just imagination at this point, but it's creative. It's all creative. And we use the creativity to kind of inform all of the different things that we do. Now, you'll notice right here that we do have a giant paddock. Now, the funny story with this is we had a player who, they spawned in day one, they placed their plot down, and they just never came back. Like, they placed a plot. They must have been logging in at some point in time. I'll get some aerial shots while we're talking. But they came in and they placed their plot down right here. And we tried to talk to them, and we were more than okay with them building here. We wanted them to be building here, but they just, never logged back on. And the first plot wipe came around and their plot was still here. So they were definitely online. Maybe they had a different character or something like that, and they just left their plot here for whatever reason. But nevertheless, the plot ended up finally going away, but we didn't want to, aggressively do anything to around their plot or anything like that if they came back. So that's where the idea to make it into a giant paddock came, because they didn't actually put any real stuff on their plot. It was just open green space. And we were like, well, what if we just build a paddock that, a bunch of gates that surround their whole plot, and then just call it a horse paddock. And that's what we did. And we liked it so much, we kept it. Now, obviously, this does seem like a little bit of a waste of space if you're being completely 100% attuned to wastefulness of plots and all of that. So we'll leave that kind of on the side, but we were trying to be creative and create something that was both immersive and welcoming to people. So we're going to continue on the north side of the island for the rest of the tour, but holy cow, look how beautiful the south side's looking right now. And we're going to have a great opportunity here as well. The city really comes alive when it's at night and all of the lights are kind of glowing. So as nighttime approaches here in the next 9 to 10 minutes, we're going to start seeing a lot of just really cool immersive lighting. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't also share the top part of the Regal Badger. This is one of the 2 main taverns that we have here in the Golden City, and this was the first one that we built, and we've had many an event here. In fact, during a festival that was held kind of in commemoration of the building of our cathedral, which if we just look right outside this window here, you'll see the tower peeking kind of off in the far distance. That's the Basilica of the First Redeemer. And we had this whole day-long event, and part of it we went on a great hunt. And when we returned, you bet it, we retold the recounting tale of our adventures of that day on, standing on the bar and sharing with friends of our trials and tribulations and the story of the slaying of a great stag as well. Now, we wanted this space to be somewhere where anyone could come in and use it. So we wanted to have a bunch of different varieties of things. So Mainframe, if you are listening, it would be great if you could just add the seating animation here so that we could have everyone sitting at the same table. But either way, we wanted to create a space where many, many people could come and gather and do so in various ways. And it's one thing to just go and place all of this and never use it, but this place has been so alive with the various events. People come and stop by, they hang out, they do their various RP here as well. And it's just been a really, really cool thing to not only see others coming in and utilizing the space, but more importantly, making it their own and telling their own stories here as well. Now we do have a little side room right here, I think, as well. And this was where some people came and stayed for the event. So they had their own boxes here, and they were able to store their materials. They moved out since then, so we changed it back to public. But it's been really, really cool to see how people come in and use some of the things that we have placed around the city for their benefit and for the continued immersion that we're kind of aiming for. Now, as I pass by this random tree that keeps on spawning through and go back under to kind of our dock area here, which again, just let's take a look at the side profile here as the sun's going down. And all of this tour is really going to be of the stuff of the main side of the Golden City, but that goes without telling. We also have had many, many people who have been joining as members of the Golden Citizens. And this is just a group of players who have organized themselves. They want to play in and around the Golden Company, but maybe they don't want to commit as much time or effort in terms of, building all of this stuff for everyone. And they still want to play with us though. So they self-organized into what they called the Golden Citizens. And this is all of their build. So I do kind of consider this a part of the city because it kind of carries a uniform look to it as well, that it kind of shares aesthetically with the Golden City as a whole. And man, I'm so excited when it goes dark and we're able to see everything lighting up throughout the city at night too. But let's continue on with the tour. We're about 23 minutes in and I haven't even gotten outside of the market square. Y'all, I might have been a little too optimistic when I said this is going to be an hour long. There's a whole nother island that we are going to be looking at. So hopefully you can stick around and we'll have this segmented into the different parts and the different builds over time. Maybe not at the initial part of the release of the video, but over time we'll segment it out so you can go and look at specific things. Now, the next building that I am looking at, other than going down these two alleyways, these are all housing units that are available for players. If they have an alt that they want to come and live in the city, then they can ask us to give them some, give them a room and they can go and place some private chests there and basically function as fully functional players without needing to have plots. But the building that stands before you is a concept building of our commodity market. So I think there was some inspiration here from the New York Stock Exchange. This is like stock tickers that are going across. But again, I did try and challenge all of our members to think of this as something that could and should exist in a different version of the medieval times, which Pax Dei's been inspired by. So here is kind of our commodities market, and what you can picture here is one side is for purchasing and using gold coin in order to acquire, in order to sell your wares or your commodities and get gold coin. And then on the other side, you can spend gold coin in order to get raw resources. So you can picture this area maybe having many, many different market stalls with all different things that are offered on both sides. And one is an area for people to go and sell resources that they have. And then the other side is where they can go and buy resources that they don't have. So the idea here is it's a one-stop shop. Let's say you are really, really good at gathering wood and really, really bad at going and getting pure iron, but you are a blacksmith and you want to make some good armor to sell on the market. Well, you can go and collect all the wood you want, come over here, sell it at the commodity market, maybe exchange some of it for charcoal or whatever else you might need. And then you can come over to the other side and use the gold that you just earned to exchange it for pure iron or steel ingots or whatever else you might actually need. So really, really cool concept. I'm sure many groups are going to be picking up and doing stuff like this as well, but we've already started developing all of that. And I really like the ceiling feature here. Now, this entire building was made by one of our main builders. His name's Zito, and he also helps kind of coordinate the layout. He was the primary coordinator for the layout of this city. So whenever I get lost, I get to blame him. But we have a better plan for what we're going to be doing in the future in GC7. So ideally, it won't be as difficult or as easy, I guess, to get lost. Now, this particular feature, I think, is something that's going to be making many, many returns and iterations, especially as we learn more about the features that are going to be coming with it, like market stalls and all of that. But you can imagine part of our goal is if you're a player and you want to participate in the life around the Golden City, then we want you to be able to come here and live out that life without having to go and place your own plot. Even you can just, shore up in one of these amazing neighborhoods and call it home. Now, in here, I'm going to just whip out my lantern. You can see that we actually have Switchfoot came and placed some containers here. So this is a room that has its own resident in it. And we have a bunch of different rooms like this that people can come and call home. Now, obviously, this one doesn't have the actual people staying there. You can tell because there's no chests. But they're all different formats, which I also really appreciate. So depending on what you're looking for, you can get many, many different types of configurations for your space, and you can even request it changed, or ideally eventually change it yourself too, so that you have the freedom to change it whenever. And we really just have many of these different spaces. Now, these are more of our upgraded spaces here, where you can kind of have a downstairs and an upstairs patio porch type thing, and just a lot of different formats. And for the most part, what these areas were, who built this area, was mostly John Copperhead, and then I believe Foxy did a lot of the furnishing for these areas as well. And this is kind of a good time for me to talk about how the Golden Company does a lot of our building. And, most builds include more than one, sometimes even more than two players working on it. And that's because we really focus on the team element and kind of cross-pollinating. If you're really, really good at doing roofing, but really, really bad at doing floor plans, or really, really bad at doing furnishing, we have people who really, really like doing furnishing and don't really, really like doing roofing or floor plans. So we combine the best efforts of everyone, and then also give each other a chance to learn from one another as well. Now, we are going to take a little turn here and take a look at we have, I think, a couple of different wyvern statues that are scattered across the city. Now, the main animal heraldic symbol of the Golden Company, I feel like I should iterate at this point, is a wolf, not a wyvern, but it's been really, really cool seeing Ambi's creations, these wyvern statues, and I really like how they're integrated in to different areas of the city, and I really do appreciate the actual sculptures and artistic work that a lot of players are putting attention to even in these builds. Now we have a giant communal table here for people to sit around, and we also have a place of prominence in case there's some foreign dignitaries or something that are here and they want to meet outside. And I almost forgot, look at this ceiling here. I really like how we do a lot of these fanning outs and how we kind of make these geometric patterns. And it goes without saying that during medieval times, like the Gothic style cathedrals, a lot of those were built basically off of math problems and geometric shapes and what the builders considered to be like pure shapes and pure numbers. A lot of them kind of used those ideas when formulating all of the different structures that they did. Now, obviously, some of those mathematics helped create structural stability, but hey, they look cool too. So then where we are right now is our second tavern, and this was created by Ambi as well. And this is one of my favorite areas. Our kitchens are some of the best kitchens and taverns that I've seen yet. I love how all of these barrels are just kind of stacked on top of each other. Really, really looking at the throughput here of serving as many people as we can. And the room down here is one of my favorite because of how creative this giant fireplace is. Holy cow. Look how cool this is. I'm going to try and get a little bit of an air shot here. So for those of you who are wondering, this is quite literally just campfires underneath some wood logs, but look how cool this is. I mean, it just sets a whole different tone for how this whole area is supposed to look and feel between the barrels and just the lighting. And I'm so glad that we made it here when it was actually dark, because the lighting does no justice if it's daylight out versus nighttime, when most players would probably be shoring up in one of these locations. One thing that you'll notice is we use these simple beds a lot of the times as almost like couches and integrate those and those ideas kind of throughout the entire city. Now, further out, I will get a little bit of a profile of the city here from the western bridge. And look at how cool this whole area is. Look at all of the stuff that we still have to go and take a gander at on the north side of the island. There's so much. Let's go take a look a little bit higher up as well. Oh my gosh. I told you the city comes alive when it's at night, and you can kind of see just all of the lights. They call it the Golden City for a lot of different reasons. One, because the flowers around the Golden City are always gold. But two, because at night it really starts shining like a glimmer of gold. Off in the background as well, you can see our fairgrounds. We just finished holding the Golden Festival in commemoration of last year's Golden Festival, which was also in commemoration of the first wipe that ever happened in an alpha, or the ending of one of the first alphas. And look at this product. We have so many more buildings to take a look at, so we're going to keep on moving on. Now, I'm going to go through these doors, which are going to show the little dock area that's been created. And I like these towers that are kind of scattered throughout, but you can imagine when they add fishing into this game, how many people are going to just be chilling out here on these docks, just fishing away, countless hours gathering fish. It's going to be such a fun and relaxing time. All right, continuing on, we have one more area in the immediate vicinity to take a look at here. And other than this nice little walkway, can we just appreciate this walkway really quick? And also the battlements. Oh, looks like someone jumped from that point and died. That's never good. But I just love the different ways that we've used lighting. Lighting is such an important thing in games, and it's how you texture your buildings, especially at night. And I just love these different walkways. Now, here is another creation by Ambi. This is called the Pleasure Garden. Don't ask. But it has just a nice place for people to relax, spend time together, just hang out, and just recharge. But there's a couple of nice little private areas here for people to kind of take a nap and relax on these wonderful beds. Let's see if I can get a nice shot here of me lying down. Ooh. Can't even see me. I disappeared. All right, let's try it one more time. Gotta do it for the gram. Y'all, if I've confirmed one thing, it's that if you can't see your character, you're never going to see your character in the outside cam. That's just how it works. Look at that. Look at that. Take a little peek. Hello. How are you? Welcome to the Pleasure Garden. I'm sorry. That probably made a lot of people uncomfortable. Continuing on, we have another one right here as well. And yeah, wow, steamy up in here. Time to go and wash off down by the river here. And that actually is going to lead us to the next location. So we really liked having this little river walk, lake walk. I'm pretty sure it's a river. If we look on the map, this is kind of a lake that leads into a river. So we'll call it a lake. But for the purposes of when we built it, we did call it a river walk for whatever reason. And there's a lot of different things all scattered up and down and around. And we have this nice little gazebo area, waterfront with water kind of coming through on either side. Just a great place for people to kind of sit and just hang out, enjoy the scenery. But I did say after that, getting all hot and bothered in the Pleasure Garden, time to come over here. And this was a group project. So it was originally started by Pickle, and then a whole team came in and helped finish it. And this is what we affectionately call the Golden Showers. It is a bathhouse. Definitely driving a new opinion of the Golden Company with these names right now. But you can come here and wash off and relax and just enjoy the mood that is here. I really, really like the underwater lighting that we were able to do. Now, this is definitely magical lighting. This is not real lighting, and definitely not something that you would see in a medieval style of build, but this is a medieval fantasy city, and the fantasy aspect is really, really the part here that we're looking at. Now we did make a little water slide for people to come and enjoy, and you saw me demonstrate it right there. But no spa, no pool is complete if you don't also have a jumping board. So we're going to give it a 1, a 2, and a 3. Look at that. So really, really cool that we have the opportunity to build these kinds of things, especially near the water. And it also gives you the opportunity to kind of go out into the lake properly And I wish there was something that we could do on the top to kind of make it more flavorful on the top, but it was definitely a really fun build and definitely a place where a lot of people come and stop by. Now that we've taken our shower / bath, cleaned ourselves up, we are going to go and take a look at one of our event locations. This is another venue that players can come and enjoy. And this one was made by Celebrimbor, and it's complete with a couple of different things. Now, one of the coolest that I really like is this open space with integrating the trees that are located around to, actually have a meaning and a purpose rather than just building on top of them. We included them in the build and how things were kind of designed and made. And I really like it. One, I like how the lighting works on these trees, especially at night, but it's just a nice little garden area for people to come and hang out at. There's a little, bench area for people to sit down and just kind of relax and hang out. Now, like I said, this is a venue space, so we do have a dance floor. And this is where we've had a ball, and there is a golden trot that exists. And I have taught people how to dance a very specific dance on this dance floor. Unfortunately, we did have this giant pillar here, which got in the way of the dance floor. I'd much rather if it was a lot bigger, but either way, it's amazing to have these kind of little event venues where you can come and hang out and use the scenery to your benefit and to tell the stories of your characters as you are living in the Golden City. Now, over here, we are going to go to another area that was built by Celebrimbor, and this is more of the, I guess the best way to describe it is more of the expensive housing. It's the high net worth district for the Golden City. And this area, we didn't really have many people move in, and that is mostly because we were all building it and we had so much space, and people were still learning all of the things that we had to offer. So we have a couple of places that people have moved into, and you can kind of see some of the various lived in spaces here for people and how they've been decorated and formatted. But this area goes on for a little while. It's kind of separated into 4 quadrants. Again, you can get that 4-quadrant motif. It's something that we have done a lot of, and just areas where people can kind of gather, do business in, hang out in, and all of that. Now we're gonna hike down here a little bit and go look at another aspect of this tiny little neighborhood, this quaint little space. And one of the other things that we learned here is how to make these tile floors where we can do some designing. So this area in particular, it is a space that's meant to be more communal. So groups can all gather around here, and there's more space for them to kind of have that lived in feel and, be a part of a community where people are engaging in a more local kind of neighborhood like setting. In the Golden City, we want there to be neighborhoods. We want it not to all be stuff that we, the Golden Company, have built, but other groups have built as well. We want it to be a place where small, medium, and even large groups can come and call home, at least for a period of time. And that's why we do everything that we do, because we want people to be a part of the community, and we want people to be participating and having fun as a group together. Now, the last part that I'm going to show is kind of like the penthouse for this area, and it is connected going across the way. So you have this nice open space here, and then a walkway, and then kind of like a dining room type area, which I really like this space. It would be a cool space to live in if I was a player and, wanted to be in this style of community. And we do want there to be multiple different types of communities in the Golden City. So we tried to integrate in a lot of different fields. You have more of the affordable housing, which we looked at all the way on the other side. And then you have this kind of area as well. Now we're getting closer and closer to the northernmost tip of the Golden City, but there's a couple of really interesting builds here that I did want to show. And just also, can we appreciate the nighttime views of these alleyways? Like, how cool is it that we get to walk through this at night and just see all of the different layers of the city and how well they've been lit up and just how well executed a lot of this is. Now back there's the Regal Badger, and over here I believe is, well, it's in the process of getting taken down, but we have kind of a brewery that is in the process of being built out, and it is kind of more of our throughput location here because we needed a lot more space to do it. So we're going to take that into account when designing our next kitchen/brewery. So then we have a nice little gazebo where people can come and enjoy. Now, a couple of these have been built by Zito. Now, this is kind of like a walk of faith. You have to walk over the embers because of your faith in the divine. She will protect you. And then this is kind of a place where players can come and, offer their prayers to the divine and test their faith by walking over these embers. Now, there's no city that is complete without, you guessed it, outhouses. So we do have an outhouse here where in a washroom where players can come and take care of business and go wash their hands and then make their prompt exit. We always found it odd that, big cities like this would exist, but then the Golden City is the only city that also has a restroom for all of its guests. How about that, y'all? How about that? Now we are coming to one of the more mega structures that has been built in the Golden City, and this is the Great Coliseum. Now, while I would love to walk through and show you all of the finer points, I feel like the best way to enjoy this build is actually from the camera view. So let's take a step up on to this chair here and take a seat, and then we will go for a little fly around. So we know that the developers intend to allow us to do dueling in home valleys. It's not in yet, but we just couldn't resist having a Coliseum because we know that we want to have a Coliseum at some point. So now's better than ever to test it out and try things out. And here we got it. And honestly, wow. Just all of the players that can stand in here. I think you can fill this area out and have enough players where you're going to have to hit multiple zones, multiple layers of the same space, because we can fit more players than the server can fit in this area. But either way, I like how we have the nice little ruins that are here, plus the trees. So it gives a unique battleground for players to actually fight in. And I really do appreciate that. Now, we'll take a quick little jaunt down the staircase here and take a gander. So this is kind of the registration area here for the fighters. And again, we have this really cool fire pit, fireplace area. And then continuing over this way as the sun's coming up. It's always great when the sun comes up. This is how the ticketing booth and then the concessions area for players as they are going to enjoy the actual fight. They can come and hang out in this little space. Oh man, the sun is rising. Carrie's sunrises are just as good as their sunsets, y'all. So hopefully we get some really cool picturesque shots here as we continue through. But this is mirrored on the other side so that players on both sides can get their ale as they go to watch the players attack each other in brutal combat. Now, here we also have some shoreside housing for people, and I believe this was made by John Copperhead, or JC as many affectionately know him as. And just a couple of areas for, and I would imagine Foxy also helped furnish this. So it's just a really great look and feel. A lot of the times, players want the ability to call this place their home, and maybe they don't have the plots to place it, but we have kind of that ability to make things for them. And if they stop logging in, then, we can go save their stuff and put it somewhere else for them in our bank, which we will talk about here in a bit. But yeah, so at the end of the Gladiators arena, we have a place for all of the various fighters to kind of shack up and arm up and get ready to go and fight. But then we also have a cage for any of the animals that they might end up fighting during more marquee level events. Now, we are at the northern tip of the Golden Isle. It's what we affectionately call this place in the Golden City. You can see our papal magnet. So the papal magnet here, plus the one that's kind of aligned in the background. And, we are very intentional about how we align things. So you can see that the Coliseum is perfectly aligned with the papal magnet as well. And then we form a little bit of a perfect triangle here between the cathedral and that papal magnet over there, which is connected to our reliquary. Now, the really cool thing here is we made this with 8 rings on the bottom and then the 1 ring on top. That's because it's supposed to resemble the 9 redeemers that came and passed on knowledge to mankind. And we try and be very symbolic with a lot of our builds and integrate in-game lore into that as well. And I told you the sunsets do not disappoint. So I do like how these rings are floating rings. At least that's what they look like. And they're being upheld by divine magics that are helping to elevate them across the entire pillar that was made. Now, the only cooler thing that we could do here is maybe make it a round pillar instead of just a square one, a monolithic square one. That would be maybe a cool thing to look into in the future. But typically, Zito is the one who builds these large monolithic structures, and he was the one who built the first papal magnet, and we give the honor to him to make all the subsequent ones as well. So maybe one day he'll get sick and tired of them, and he'll be like, pass the torch on to someone else, please, Altari. But we really like how these look, and it's something that's genuinely unique to the Golden City. Other people are making these giant monolithic structures. Now, continuing on with our lake walk or river walk, whatever you want to call it, as we make our way back to the south side of the island, is we did want there to be kind of a space where players can walk all along and around the city. And we wanted them to also get their feet wet a little bit here as they look off across the beautiful waters here. But it is just a simple walkway to help players kind of navigate without having to get lost through all of the bits and baubles of the northern side of the Golden City. Now, where we're heading to now is the south side of the island, and the south side of the island is where a lot of the business is taken care of. We have a lot of our industrial locations over there, our reliquary, the cathedral, the Hall of 100, as well as some underground locations as well, which we'll take a little delve into. So, north side of the island, 55 minutes and counting I wonder how long the south side will take. You thought the north side had a lot of cool things? Well, buckle up because we have a lot of things to cover on this side. Now, we will start kind of at the far end here and go and take a look at our visitor center as well as the visitor community stalls that exist for all of the horses. Now, the community stalls, these were made by Wormskull again, and this is actually where he first kind of discovered the hay bales that can kind of be made out of thatch roofs. And you can kind of see them scattered throughout here. So this is for people who are visiting, who want to be a part or, come and visit the Golden City. This is where they can get that, place their horses. And then most people we found were coming from the eastern side of the bridge. So there's 2 bridges right now that lead to the Golden Isle. And a lot of people were coming from the eastern. So we decided to put our welcome center on the eastern side of the Golden Isle. And give you a quick little glimpse what it looks like from this angle right here when you're approaching the city. And this was all intentional as well. We framed the city in this way. So when someone is approaching, it's really, really important to kind of draw them in and have interest to draw them in. So when you're walking across, they look over on this side and they can see the Coliseum. They can see the Papal Magnet. But more importantly, as they're walking in, they can see the visitor center. They can see the Papal Magnet over there. They can see our Hall of Justice. They can see the Hall of 100. They can see the 3 barracks that are over there, our bank, which is over in the corner, and then the giant Basilica of the First Redeemer, our cathedral, which is located at the very top of the hill over there as well. So this is our welcome center, and it is a really nice place for when players were freshly spawning in and looking for stuff. They could come in here, and all of these chests, well, now they're made private because we're getting ready to move, but these used to be public chests where players could come and gather some starter resources so that they could, set themselves up on a good foot. And we just tried to include all of this for players so that they could kind of get a jump start by being in, on, or around the Golden City. And when we were starting up, we were handing out, all the good gathering resources and whatnot, just to promote people coming to the city and being a part of it. So next up, we are going to go over to the Hall of Justice, which is located right in front of me. Now, a lot of these are going to be built by Tainalier. Also, Rothgar built the Hall of Justice. The sculpture is Tainalier. And I also, just quick shout out, it took a lot of effort to find out where all of our places were located in the Golden City. And we did build this signage to help people kind of determine where they needed to go. So here is the Hall of Justice, and do pardon the tree that's growing through it right now. You can't choose where those things grow, unfortunately. And we have our scales of justice here too. And there's kind of 2 directions that you can go. You can go down or you can go up. And we're going to, go take a look at the top of the tower here, get kind of a nice overlook of things, and you can get a taste of where we're going to be going here in a little bit. But if we head down instead, it'll lead us to the ground floor to kind of get into the actual Hall of Justice. Now, this is a Hall of Justice, so there is a cell down here where thieves and bandits can be stored for future prosecution. And you can see the jail cells are kind of open right now because no one's in them. And there's a couple of different areas like this. Now, they've all been open because nobody's currently been bad enough to get thrown in. But one thing you might notice in some of these nooks and crannies, there's a hidden passageway over here, something that you wouldn't normally see as you're walking through. But there is something down there, and maybe we'll go take a look at that in a bit. Now, for the purposes here, we do have a place for someone to stand and be judged by the divine. That's why they're at the center of the emblem for the Pax Dei. And a judge would stand up there and rule their judgment accordingly for what they believe is due justice on a player. And of course, no good judgment is done without a jury of your peers, so we do have an observation deck as well for people being prosecuted. Really cool build by Rothgar, and maybe one day Pax Dei will actually have a legal system that we can enforce laws and rules on and imprison players or not, depending on how they do in trial. But a really cool, flavorful build, I think. Now, the next part that I'm going to be sharing is our bank. I'm going to share the bank because, oh man, this is a crazy building. Now, it was originally modeled after Gringotts, I think. Our builder who made this was Tainalier, and this was the first place where we made these really intricate large doors. And they look so good, we started integrating them throughout the city because why not? Now, clearly this is supposed to look like Gringotts, so Gringotts isn't Gringotts unless you have a bank teller station where you would go and talk to a representative to store your gold. Now, we do intend on building a banking system where players can earn interest on storing their currency with us at the Golden City, and that might be able to eventually be exchangeable in other parts of the world. And we're actively devising how exactly that would work. But the benefit for us, we'd get maybe a small amount of interest or something for storing the gold for you, or you would earn a small amount of interest by allowing us to store the gold for you. And now, if you had a precious item that you needed stored, then a teller would invite you to come to the back and make your way down into the vaults. So the vaults go up and the vaults go down. Downstairs vaults is like the forbidden section. So down here, there's larger vaults to store your goods in. You can see right here, we have a money vault. And you can go in here and store whatever you'd like. There's also a staircase that leads up to an even more secure location for you to store more precious goods and materials. Maybe you're a merchant and you don't want to take your stuff all the way back, or put it all the way in the somewhere else, and either you don't have a room or you do have a room and you don't want to store it there. You can load these things up with so many different chests. I mean, look at all of the different areas here that you could just be stacking chests in as private storage. And then this room also has another area upstairs for players to store. And this is a huge area for storage. Even though it looks small, you can really fit a lot of stuff in here when you're not trying to have a bed and a bunch of other stuff in there too. And I believe there's three different vaults that are located at the very, very bottom. Now we can go up a little bit further, and let's just appreciate something that I didn't do when we were in here. Look at how cool the inside of this structure is. It's just massive. You feel like you're underground. It is so freaking cool. I just really, really love it. Now, I think we're going to go through a little bit of a reduction in size for the next go around for the bank. But in some ways, I really hope we don't, because this bank also would be a really cool library, would it not? Now, all of these, we have multiple stories here of different vaults that players can store a couple of chests in. And we actually have a couple of people who are using them to store chests in for the different farmers markets and whatnot that we hold in the market area. And like I said, there's just multiple different levels to all of this. Pretty cool. Now I'll get a little bit of an aerial shot looking down. And you can just really see how detailed this entire area looks. All the various chairs and vault locations for players' materials to be stored. And it is quite a secure location for all of your goods as well. And centrally located in the city in case you need what you need. You can just come back and get your stuff and go to the market and buy whatever you need to buy. So it's a good storage solution for some players. Now, as we're moving out of the bank, another area that you can kind of get to from here is we have a question mark. So this area right here is kind of, I think, the lost and found. So if you lost something, this is kind of where you can go and get that. These are all things that have been built by Tanalair. It's also kind of just makeshift stores potentially as well. So this whole district is kind of like our embassy district where players can have their representatives kind of shore up and have direct communication with the members of the Golden City. Now, Dirty U looks like he took a plunge here. Oops. Now, further down here, there's a couple of different directions we can go. Now, there's up and there's down. We're going to take a step down. Now, going up here is going to lead to our university, which is this giant structure right here, as well as some more embassy spaces for different players. But we'll catch that in a little bit. Now, going down, there's a couple of different areas all in and around here. And one of the cool things is we do have some battlements with a trebuchet. I really like how this trebuchet looks, especially with the hand cranks, the spinning wheels. But I'll take a little outside gander at these. We have a ballista as well. It's kind of in a state of disrepair. It's under maintenance. And here's kind of the overall look of this side of the Golden City. Now, continuing on, there's kind of some areas up here where it's kind of like a guard station as you get up right here, as well as another area for foreign dignitaries to kind of call home, and they get a nice view of the lake and the cliffside right there as well. But I said I wasn't going to go down this way, and now we're kind of going down this way, aren't I? But we'll actually get to all of this here pretty shortly. So continuing down, this is kind of in and around our battlements area. This is a really cool little winding staircase that leads out to the western bridge. Here's that wonderful tavern with a large fireplace. And now we're back out at the front. So that was the bank, as well as some of the battlements and areas over there. Now we're going to be heading to the Armory. This one was built by Wormskull. And the Armory's been a really cool functional building where we gather to go do I think we do over 3 different dungeon runs a week that are open to the community. And we use this as a focal point to gather. So we try and supply consumables and the like to anyone who is looking for consumables when we go on our various adventures. And here we have all of the different storage crates for all the different things that you could possibly need. We have potions, we have various health pots, consumables, all the different types of weapons that are stored here. We did have some grab and go kits, but these have been grabbed and gone. We haven't replaced them recently, but all the different various types of armor that you could have and need, the Golden Company tries to supply all of its members with the various weapons and tools that they could need. Now, I did really like this. It's a archery range that's located inside the armory. So if you're shooting, you can shoot alongside someone and compare your accuracy versus theirs. Nice little practice. And then right here, it is an armory, so we do have an area for guards to kind of stand watch over the city and hang out while they're on duty, on service. And then there is an upstairs as well for players to kind of enjoy a little bit more elevated areas around the top of the armory. Again, it's also kind of a battlements, so to speak, where if the city was invaded, this is a location that we would kind of muster at and use defensively. Now, another thing that the Golden Company kind of does differently is we do have what we call a magical locker. So all of our magical gear, if it's standard issue or semi-standard issue, we'll store it down in our magical locker. And we use that as a way for us to kind of share the love, so to speak, of all the magic, so that people can, oh, what's down there? We might have to go take a look at that in a bit. But this is so that we can kind of share the love. And that's our magical locker. We also have some training dummies here outside of the armory. And here's kind of another main entrance, but unfortunately that tree really covers it up a lot of the time. Moving forward and onward, we do have the entrance to the armory, but then more importantly, so the Golden Company is ever only going to have 100 members, and we wanted each of those members, and they do have to give up some, they donate their plots, they give up at least one plot to be a member. We wanted them to have a solution for where they get to live. So what you're looking at right now is the barracks that we've made for every member of the Golden Company. So we can house 100 players here, and they can all hold their various private inventories inside of the barracks. And I believe most players have at least one roommate. And you can see, like, here is one room, and this is Frogadelic and all of his private stuff. Sorry, I'm not going to rummage through all of your stuff, Frog. But then we have Isabel over here as well, and we try and allow all of the members to hold their various inventories private, but we try and restrict. You only need more than, you really don't need more than 2 or 3 private chests, because really what more are you going to be storing? Now on the bottom floor, we do have kind of mustering places. So this is kind of the strategic location where we would talk about strategy as we're getting ready to gear up and go out somewhere. So it's a little location. And then we also have parade grounds here where when you're mustering, if we want to do a little military parade, this is where we can present the ranks, and I can address all the members of the Golden Company from here. We can have our dignitaries up here if they want to inspect the troops as well. And then over here, we just have another lobby. This is the one that we came through as we were able to go to the bank, and then decided to flip a quick little UE down there and go somewhere else. But this also has a lot of space for players to kind of call home. And between these 3 buildings, they should store all of the members of the Golden Company. Now, this was made pretty much exclusively by Phelan, and then I think even Phelan furnished it too, if not Foxy and a couple of others might have helped with the furnishing tasks. But really, really cool build. I know it sucked the life out of him because of just building 50 of the same thing. It's taxing. It's very taxing. So really great job though, and I really do like how it turned out. Now, continuing on, we have our various parks and locations here for players, and this is kind of the entryway that we skipped. and we'll take a quick little detour here. We're not going to go up here just yet, but we're going to go to what we call our industry street, because that's where all of our industry is based out of. So first and foremost, we do have our tailors right here, and you can kind of see another inbox that's here with the various materials. And here is kind of all of our tailoring stuff, which I find to be, I really like how all of these builds truly have the right feel for it. So they are going to have a little bit more industrial nature to them. And you can see that with how many looms we have stacked everywhere. But we try and make it feel real. Like this is what a medieval industrial loom location would be. Like this is where if you were if mass producing was a thing in medieval times, then this is what it would look like. And we tried to really, lean into that. We also have a nice little park located down here. And then over here on the far reaches, this is getting to our great forge. And we will actually go through the main entrance for the forge, which is located right here. But before we go and do that, we also have the jeweler. You can see the nice little diamond. And for a time, we had a huge diamond structure that was located here, but we ended up retrofitting it and the diamond didn't end up sticking around. But this is our jewelers, and it's pretty simple, straightforward, nice little structure with an upstairs and a downstairs, and mostly just a place to store all the precious gems that we have. Now, it is very difficult to level up jewelry, but we do have someone who's pretty dang high. I think they're level 30 in jewel crafting, so they actually can see everything and anything that is available all the way up to level 40 now. And this was made, I think, in part by Rothgar, as well as a couple of other members, or at least the original structure was. Now, continuing up through the Great Galleon Forges. Now, this is the heart of the city, the beating heart of the city, also potentially the lungs of the city. And the capacity that we have in this building is absolutely insane. At its peak, it was spitting out like 20 steel every 10 minutes, effectively, with how many forges we had going, making steel. And what I really like about this is that we tried to integrate smoke plumes into the actual building. Like we're not just going to cap it off and have these things closed off. We actually integrated smokestacks so that the bellows kind of are pushing air out and, out of the space. Got to have all those OSHA requirements fulfilled, But then not only that, but just our basic furnaces. We have so many basic furnaces, and this was really the industrial heart of the city because it allowed us and enabled us to really push the limits of what we could make and how much we could make of everything in a very short period of time. And we also have some inboxes here for us to kind of deposit all the various goods and materials. And then going further down, we have additional furnaces, but then also an area for us to smelt all of the charcoal down into what we need the most, which is that fuel, right? So here's kind of our storage area for all of the different logs. And then as you go further back, these are where we get all of our bricks from. This is where you get the bricks. So kind of an industrial heart. There's also an upstairs here and just another area for us to get more bricks from. And now, the one thing I don't appreciate is that we don't have a way to put stone on a second floor, but it does not make sense that we have stone with furnaces on top of them. Now, either way, there's also a nice little place for someone to just crash for the day. Nice little break, peaceful area. Now continuing upward through the great forges. Now we could easily walk up this area, but that would be no fun. So we're going to creep around this way and go up on the side. Now this entire space was made by Tainalier. It was one of the first projects that he worked on in the Golden City. And right here we do have a couple of areas that are really fun and worth sharing. We have a nice little down the way dock, so if we are ever able to receive shipments, this is kind of where we would receive those shipments, at the dock area. And we can have some ships moored here, and that's where we would get all of those nice shipments of pure iron and wood to kind of fuel our fiery furnaces. And then continuing up here, we have a nice little windy staircase. And this is actually where we were storing all of our secret relics for the longest time. And this was our little magical locker, but we expanded into the armory and moved out of this space. But these are just areas here where you can kind of see we had little fireplace and stuff like that has since gone underutilized because we've expanded into other areas and are looking to retrofit these. But also just a nice little location for people to meet. Now, like I said, this is the heart and soul in some ways of the Golden City, because this is where all of the manufacturing for all of our goods lies. And I really like how we integrated the fireplace here, and we're trying to just make it look and feel like this is a place where you would be making weapons and you would be making armor. And we just have all of these different boxes lined up for storing the various raw materials that are needed to make this industry work. And we also have another space up top, which was going to be a bunk location for a lot of our members who were blacksmiths, so that they could all sleep and wake up and go back to work, as I would say. Now, the blacksmiths are really well connected to the leather workers as well. So we bridged a gap over here into our leather working area, and we have some tanning racks and all of that, but most of the leather working is done out on the rooftop of our forges down below. So here's where we do all of the leather manufacturing. And then I will exit down through the bottom here. And again, we have kind of an inbox, outbox system located right here, as well as an area for people to enter and exit from. And this is Industry Street. So we started all the way down there and we headed our way up here. Now over here is our Fletchers. And this is where all of our fletching is done. And I really like this area too because of this roundabout tower that we have with this really cool just office space for someone to look out and get almost a complete 270-degree view of most of the city. I really, really like this particular tower area and really enjoy kind of coming up here and looking at the views. So to give you an outside perspective of this little space, this is what it looks like. And that is our Fletcher on the right versus the Great Galleon Forge is on the left. Now, heading back in, we're getting pretty close to being done with the south side of the island, at least in terms of the industry. Then we get to move on to some of the marquee buildings here. So we also have a lot of park areas for players to enjoy and get lost in as well. And just some tiny nooks and crannies for players to navigate through. Now, this particular area, I believe, is our version of a Winchester house. There is like very little logic that went into making this, or actually probably too much logic that went into making this. So this is a crazy person made this house. There's doors that just lead to nowhere, staircases that lead to nowhere, and it's kind of actually quite creepy when you walk around it, but I really like it, and I thought it was a creative work, like a chair that's just looking at you as you go down the stairs. Creepy. This one was made by JC, and I think Zito kind of helped with some of the ideas behind it. Now, continuing up, here is we just passed the other entrance to the Great Galleon Forges, and continuing up, we have our reliquary. So our reliquary is where we store all of the various relics, and you can see the inbox here. So all of the Golden Company members, they come and deposit their various acquisitions into here, and then it would get redistributed into all of the various chests that are used. Now, what you'll notice, if we zoom out, this is separated into 6 different nodes. So you have your like different types of relics. You have the nature relics, you have the lost souls, you have the sigils, you have the insignias, you have the ethereal crystals. All the different types of relics are all stored here. And then, because this is a place of prominence, we'd also included a nice little papal magnet here too. Now, continuing onward, one of our more recent additions to the city was our library / scriptorium. This one was made by Tainalier, and I just love walking in with these giant pillars. And then one of the first domes ever made in Pax Dei is located right here. I haven't seen many domes, so that's why I say it's one of the first, but don't quote me on that. Now, this is kind of an area for players who are going to be writing in books and doing all of that. And we have the various books kind of made here, and I really like the level of detail that's been done. These are just signs, but we made them look like books, which I thought was a really creative thing to do with the texturing. And you can see more quote-unquote books placed right there. Just things that you aren't going to really focus on, but when you see it, you're just like, oh yeah, these are books. Cool. So up top, we have a lot more shelves for more books kind of populating around. Nice little walkways for players to get lost in the different aisles. Areas for people to sit down and talk about the various books and knowledge that they have. And that's our library / scriptorium. Now, we're going to go take a look at one of the first areas that was ever built in the Golden City, and that was our warehouse, our original warehouse structure. Now, this has gone through many different retrofits to kind of fit the bill, and now it is a little bit of a beer garden, a place of congregation for the Golden Company. Over here, we do have a little classroom for people to learn about the various things that we have learned. It's a place for us to share knowledge. And down here, we have our various storage locations. And there's quite a bit here. And in fact, a lot of them have been getting kind of moved around. You'll notice that there's not that much. That's because we're getting ready to move out. But we also have our mail room. This is kind of where all the different players have their individual private boxes that we can deliver mail into. And yeah, this is just a really cool little beer garden. And we have a visitor. Always visitors. Always people visiting. But here is kind of the view from this angle. Now, unfortunately, I am going to end up ignoring that person. I'm sorry, Sion Tuck, but we have a video to get through and it's already an hour and a half in. Yikes. So up top here, we also have a place for our carpenters. You can see this is just where ungodly amounts of wood have been stored for making furnitures and the various things that may be required. And then up top here was going to be a place for all of our carpenters to live in, but we just we were unable to finish it. Now, continuing on, we do have this area over here. This was originally a place for our tailors. This was a tailoring area, but we retrofitted it to also be an area connected to our amphitheater. Now, this particular area is just more of the brewing at the very bottom, but as you go up the top, it's going to get you a pretty cool vantage point of part of the city. Now, I do want to show the amphitheater, and we're getting close to also showing off the Hall of 100 and the cathedral, or the Basilica of the First Redeemer. Now, all these, this is a ticketing location in order to get into the amphitheater. And if I can actually go the right direction here. This is kind of like a premium observation deck, which then leads you to the amphitheater. I'm so glad that we put these staircases in, because holy cow, it was really difficult to jump up all of these individual places. So we've had many different performances done here, at least 7 throughout the last couple of months that the Golden Cities existed for, and players have come and watched others perform and do all of that. And this was made primarily by Zito, and here you can see the VIP observation deck and the entryway that was kind of near where we were coming up. If you walked up this staircase here, it would lead you to the observation deck. Now, yes, this is a really, really cool little area, amphitheater area. Now, one of the marquee buildings, the Basilica of the First Redeemer. Now, walking up to it, there are a couple of little smaller houses. This is kind of where maybe monks can live for coming and venturing long distances to come to the Basilica. Now, it's not really doing justice just by looking at it from this angle and this angle alone. So let's take a look kind of at the entire thing. Now, this area is pretty much built between 3 people. So I did most of the structural work, and then Tainelier came in and did a lot of the roofing. He made the little pillar tops here as well. And then Wormskull came in and did a lot of the interior decoration, along with a couple of other members. I think Foxy and JC also might have contributed a little bit as well. And then lighting, I think Zito helped with too. So you can see these big buildings, they're not individual players. These are things that are made by many, many different people. Now, we do have another video that's going to be coming out talking about how the cathedral was made, but I would be remiss if I didn't come in and show you all around. So there are 2 towers with walkways that you can get up. For the purposes of this video, we'll just fly up there because there's a lot to get through still. Now, here's kind of like a hand washing, altar-y type place where you can come and, say your prayers before heading in further down. There's also, we have a confession booth for players to come in and confess their sins to a priest, as well as a couple of places here for people to leave their alms as well. Then here is kind of another place, a donation chest that people can put. So the Basilica of the First Redeemer is inspired by the First Redeemer, Protanoia, who the rain lily is something that really, it's their particular flora, And there's also a lot of motifs around fire, and Protonoia is considered the like mother of humanity in a lot of ways. And we tried to include a lot of motifs with life. So the altar has a lot of greenery around it and stuff like that. Now, one of my favorite little things here, most people don't notice this, but in the back, we also have a tomb for one of the fallen master builders of this. There was a lot of high peaks and a lot of people falling and meeting their untimely demises. So we figured it would make sense to also make a little sarcophagus burial area at the back here for commemorating their sacrifices. Now down below, we intended to make kind of a underground catacomb area for more burial locations, but we just never got to it. If you're watching this and still can get access to the Golden City, I don't recommend going down there. It's quite dangerous. Now, above me is a labor of love. Let's take a closer look. This is a series of interconnected wood beams that we put together in a very precise manner, and sometimes free placing them to make this very gothic looking ceiling for the effect. Now this is the internal ceiling. There's also the external ceiling, which is just completely brick. It's all brick. Now, this took weeks of work to get all of these placed. Entire forests are hanging above us in this area. And then one of the other things that I'm really proud of is just how cool the stained glass looks. I mean, just look at these. Now, one aspect of, other than the high vaulted ceilings that you kind of can see here, another aspect of Gothic cathedrals are the flying buttresses, which are these little things that are kind of propping up and distributing the weight of these freestanding walls, sharing them down to these large stone pillars. Now, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of these actually bring structural integrity, but it is something that in the real world brought structural integrity to these structures, and we wanted to be true to what reality kind of dictates, not necessarily what in-game rule sets dictate. And then we have this center area. Some cool things to note here as well is the number of pillars that are located here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 8 on each side, and then 9, the first one right here. So this is kind of like another numerical representation of the Redeemers and all of the Redeemers that have come and gone in Pax Dei lore, because we try and, again, stay true to lore. And I just really, really like how this works and how this looks and how it feels when you're walking through, especially at this time of day with the sun kind of cracking through the windows. The only thing that would make this even better is if we had stained glass. So mainframe, if you're listening to this, please do add some stained glass. This window right here is not what it should be. It should have some stained glass to it. Please and thank you. Now, anyways, continuing on from the Basilica of the First Redeemer, we're going to go and take a trip over to the archery area and then the Hall of 100. So we'll take a quick little pit stop here. So this is a hole. Now, this hole actually leads to somewhere, and you can get lost down there. It leads to the underground, the underworld of the Golden City. And there's a lot of nefarious things that go on down there, so we're gonna try and avoid that for the time being. But there's also a little area here for people to give alms and pray to the divine. It's kind of our religious sector. Now, continuing on, we do have some more housing and kind of like Guildhall-y type areas here. But over here is our archery range. And I'm going to show kind of what it looks like from over here. So this is where you would get your archery rounds. And then you can come over to one of these areas There's a cool little viewing point right here. And then you can shoot at the different targets. Unfortunately, there's nothing further down here, so there's no risk of accidentally hitting someone from super far away. So in continuing, we're going to go back down the way that we came. And also, might as well take a point here to point out some of the bridges as well as the Golden Festival grounds over there. We will get to these things, but just look at how cool this whole area looks from the backside. We have multiple bridges. One of my favorite bridges done. This one was done by Wormskull right here. Soulless Crow made this one right here, but then it was reformatted and practically completely redone by Ambi. And then this was also a bridge that was done by Ambi. Meanwhile, we have towers that have been made by Torden, the various towers here. And then this is what we call Wormskull Island because Wormskull, who's one of our builders, he actually joined us, but before he did, he was a resident on this island, and this was one of his original huts, which we reformatted into an area to make more charcoal. But we also have the Alchemy Tower, which is located over there. We'll go and check that out here in a little bit. Just look at the scale of these buildings. It's insane. All right, continuing on, we'll head back down a little bit of the ways here because we're going to the Hall of 100 next, and then we'll make one stop over at the University, go down University Street, and then maybe take a delve down into the deep, dark areas of the Golden City. So we kind of looked at this area before. This is, again, supposed to be a place for ambassadors. This is more of like a guild hall type scenario here where members of friendly guilds or clans could come and call this place home and kind of have a base of operations in the Golden City, or have their primary base of operations here. And then obviously you can't have an area for people to enjoy their time with one another if we don't have a nice little bar area for everyone to kind of gather around and have seats at and hang out at as they are getting ready to go into the Hall of 100. Now, a couple of people have contributed to all of these builds. It wouldn't be fair to call out any individual one specifically without also mentioning Tainalier, who really made the vast number of placements for this. But we have so many different people that have contributed to this as well. And basically, if you're a member of the Golden Company, you've probably participated in some way, shape, or form in building out these structures. Now, I really do like the short little bridge, the short bridges here made out of wood. These towers you can go into, and we'll take a quick little bird's eye view here. This video will take 5 hours if I go to every single location, but it is just so cool how all of these things kind of fit together in a unified way. Now, continuing further up, we do have this little entrance into the Hall of 100. Now, the reason why we call it the Hall of 100, again, is because the Golden Company will only ever have up to 100 members in it. So we have the place where we convene, and we've had many meetings here as both the Golden Company, but also we've used it as an event space for various player-made meta organizations to come and meet and talk. And there's 100 seats here because it's the Hall of 100. And many a decision has been made in these halls already. And every city has to have a Hall of 100 in order to be a Golden City. And I love how these kind of look every single time. And this one's been really, really good. Tainalier is the primary contributor to this. Now, there is kind of an outside hall area where foreign dignitaries and diplomats can come and talk in the hallways and in between meetings, and as we're convening kind of as a court to talk about various topics. But then we can also carry down into one of these lower areas, which we have a lot of these little nooks and crannies, but this is kind of an area for people to kind of sit down and relax. Maybe a meeting's getting ready to begin and you just want to hang out with your friends and buddies. This is kind of an area for you to do all of that. And this is kind of like a little baker's space. And then this actually leads up to the Hall of 100, just in a different area you can see. So if food needs to be served, we have the ability and the means to do it here. So it's important to keep people's bellies full. And then here we just have kind of an outside porch patio area for people to take in the sights. We have a nice view of Torden's Towers over here too. He just recently put in for the Golden Festival a water slide. We'll close this up. And then just another entry access point here back to where we were. Now, here's the door access to the towers. And again, why would you not want to come out here just to sit and relax and look over everything that is the Golden City? So absolutely cool. I don't have many words to describe what I'm looking at anymore, just because it's so awesome what has come to exist here, and just all of the amazing things that our various builders have made. So this is separated into two different kind of areas. And the second area is located right here. So you do have, again, kind of more access to these various places all in and around here, as well as the tower. But this also has kind of an interesting little side space, and you can get access to it from the wall that's kind of surrounding all of the Hall of 100. But this is kind of an administrative space. So everyone in the Golden Company insisted that they create an office space somewhere for people who are doing administrative work to kind of work out of. And other than this wall that also exists here, again, giving you a great picture of the rest of the city, and also a nice little defensive perimeter. But inside, we have kind of a little bit of a waiting room for people who are seeking counsel or, wanting to talk for various things. And there's been a lot of decisions that have been made here too, both RP and not. Just, it's a really cool area. And we found it fitting that it's also overlooking the Basilica of the First Redeemer, but a good place for people to kind of meet and congregate and talk about various topics. Over here, we kind of have more of a fine dining location for when people want to meet and eat as well, and a nice little kitchen on the side here to kind of supply that. Here's a bedding location as well as a private toilet, so that you don't have to walk all the way to the other side of the area for the north side of the island just to use the restroom. Then here's kind of a supply cabinet with some wine barrels and fermenters and all of that, so that the drinks can keep flowing. Now, continuing out and down here, that's kind of like the administrative space. And this was actually in some ways modeled after Emperor Palpatine's senatorial office, which I thought was kind of cool. And then this is just an area for various animals and pets to be stored up here. Now, at one point, it was a lot easier for horses to get up here. I think that has since changed, quite obviously. But still a great place for people to come and see more of the telling locations of the Golden City. Now, an area that I love to share we're going to go down University Street here. And this is our university. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. So this is kind of an area that we made for learning. And I really like the side textures here with kind of the peaks and, you know, the embedded torches. Looks really, really cool. But also just the general walls. Look how cool those doorways are. I mean, and just again, you know, this is supposed to be a university, a place of learning. And this is kind of the central congregational area for people. And we'll take a look over here. Nice little storage cellar. And then an upstairs, which goes up to kind of more of a place for people to be lectured. And I really like this space. I thought it was pretty cool. So like the headmaster would be sitting here. They would be giving their lecture off to all of the various students. This is where Mana, one of our most in-depth lore advocates, would give his lectures. Now continuing down, this kind of just wraps around back to the area where we can congregate. And there happens to be a door here. Now, one thing you'll notice is that there's a little bit of a pathway that goes down here. Maybe I should bring out a good old-fashioned lantern to explore this a little bit further. Now you'll note that I'm going down pretty far. This is the underbelly of the Golden City. In fact, the entire southern side of the island, everything that is below this road is interconnected by a series of underground tunnels and areas. Now, it's said that there is a thieves guild that's hidden within the city. I'm going to put this away for a little bit more of an effect in walking through. Now, we've still been looking for that thieves guild, but it looks like they cleared out and this was the space that they were in. And I just love this space. It is such a cool area. And, you know, this is all underground. This is all underneath the city. So all those structures that you see up top are on top of this. And a player who's walking down here, they have no clue where they are in relation to everything else in the city. No clue. But this is all just area that people can walk around and see. And, you know, one of my favorite locations. It's just barely with some light peeking through. But this is a place where a wall was built for, you know, the purposes of protecting the city. But then there was this undercity that was here previously. And you can see the gate that was open but now has stone covering it. And the little glimpse of light that's kind of shining through. Really, really cool area. A really cool area. Now, like I said, this is something that is connected to many different locations throughout the entire city. And this is one of those locations where you can kind of get lost underneath the city if you don't know how to navigate it properly. But there's so many different entries and exits and locations. You might notice one of these, the one that I just walked through. This is the Armory, the area that we toured maybe 20 minutes ago. This is the Armory. Now, just to keep kind of giving an example here, if we go back down, now my torch is potentially going to explode. So we have to be efficient with our uses here. But if you keep walking, you'll see another area. And then look at where we are now. This is the Justice Hall. which I showed earlier. And every building that's on the south side of this island is all interconnected by this underground tunneling. All of it. You can get to it over here. In fact, some might say you can even access it through here. And it goes everywhere around the entire city. Various, private containers of bygone materials that have been stored from other times in the city's history. But these are the catacombs. And I'm not going to show you the entire network. I did want to share a couple of them, but I didn't want to share the entire thing because there's still some really cool things that are located throughout the city underneath. And we're going to include those types of things in the future. So I don't want to spoil it for people who might come and visit GC7 in the future. Now we're back on Industry Street. We've gone through the Hollow 100, the Basilica of the First Redeemer, the Great Galleon Forges. We've looked at the archery area and pretty much everything that's located on the south side of the island. But we didn't stop at one island, y'all. We went to a second island. Let's go. So we're going to go take a look at a couple more builds here. And we're almost at the 2-hour mark. So I do apologize. I was very optimistic with this tour, but you gotta do it justice, and you gotta show love where love is due. So we are crossing the Golden Gate Bridge is what we're calling this. And, there is a gate. There are 2 gates here, and it is a bridge, and it leads to the Golden City. So we figured, it should be called the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, building this was quite difficult. We actually originally had the bridge going across here, but we had to change it so that we could do the whole thing made the way that we wanted to. So we've got some lessons learned there. Now, Ambi's dragon is located here as well. And wow, look at that. That is almost a screenshot in and of itself. In fact, I'm just going to take one because that's like a thumbnail picture right there. Wow. So anyways, this is another wyvern statue kind of showing off Alchemy Island or Worm Skull Island. And what we found is this island, if anyone's looking to build here in the future, this is like your one-stop shop when it comes to getting some wood for charcoal. Now, unfortunately, they are pine forests, which means you're getting silver fir branches, which don't have any use right now. But hey, it is what it is. Now, here is Worm Skull's little hut that was converted into a charcoal making machine. But then we also have this nice little fisherman's dock area for people to kind of come and fish or go swimming if they fell in or anything like that. Nice little peaceful location, and you get a good view of the bridge as well. Now, here's another one of my most favorite builds. So we have this little walkway here along this really cool building. And then you have this entryway into a magical little courtyard. And I say magical because this is our alchemy tower, as well as our workstations for all of the alchemy needs. Now, the thing that I liked most here is the integration of this tree into the courtyard and making it feel like it was supposed to be there all along. We didn't place it. We can't place it right now. But it just feels like this is something that it was meant to be here. And for that, I find it so cool that we were able to integrate that together. And just look at this courtyard. Now, every alchemy area, you have to have nice little, cracking the door to get into the tower where all the alchemy is being done. We have our little basement cellar area, and then up top, again, this really cool kind of rock integration where all of our alchemists are hard at work manufacturing the potions and tinctures that keep the Golden Company functioning at their highest capacity. Another cracked door that leads to some private containers to store some of the more precious materials. I really like how that kind of integrates in. And then we have access to the roof, but it's also worth looking at the staircase that goes to the tower, because there's a really cool little piece that kind of integrates in here. And I really like how this tower looks and works, just from the standpoint of the wide open space with the rock in the center. But look, we have a nice little telescope. Nice little telescope to go look at the night sky. So again, just the level of creativity that has gone into GC6 is really awesome. And I'm excited to challenge all the members of the Golden Company on GC7 to outdo themselves even more. I think we're not even close to our best work yet. And if this is not even close to our best work, then I'm scared in some ways to see what our best work is going to be. Now, kind of the last location that I'm going to share in today's video, this over 2 hours worth of nonstop talking and showcasing of the various areas of the Golden City, is the Golden Festival grounds. So we had initial plans to actually build all of everything here and then expand over to this area, that I'm walking to right now, which is called the Golden Cove. And the Golden Cove was going to be kind of where the Golden Company was housed. So we have the barracks over there, but we were going to build what we called the Golden Keep over here. And the Golden Keep was going to be kind of more of a Golden Company specific area where like our knighthoods would reside, and just more of a place for that kind of thing. Now, if you're looking to build in a really cool place, and this is loading a bunch of new chunks, so I do apologize for the quick burst of lag. But if you're looking for an area where you can build a really cool city location, consider this. It's a little bit off the beaten path from the Pax Dei, so there's a little bit of a travel distance thing, but this cliffside is so absolutely cool to build next to. And then there is clearly a place right here where there used to be a waterfall, and I have faith that waterfalls will make it back into the game at some point, and this is going to be one of the most picturesque, most sought after locations to build in. A lot of height differences, a lot of places for players to kind of experiment and play around with. Highly recommend this as a build location if you're a medium to large size group with a decent number of plots. So here's the Golden Festival grounds, and our entry area right here. It's kind of our little shop. This is where you can get tickets, and we have charcoal was what we used as our tickets, and we have a fortune teller which is right here. We have the various different flowers and mushrooms that are available. You can come in here and kind of do a little bit of powwow with the divine, it looks like. And just a really cool kind of place. Now, we do have not one, but 2 amazing slides that are totally safe and would never kill you. And that is, I'm holding to it. Okay, I'm holding to it. Those are perfectly safe, OSHA approved slides. Thank you. Now, here we have bobbing for apples station. So there's actually kind of a format here with a grid, and players would pick, are they on the left or on the right side? And then a player would bob for apples by standing on the specific grid location. So, this is where I would stand. And then they would be like right here. So I'd get water. The goal is to get a plum. But that's kind of how you would do it. And right here, players would drop and pay whatever they want to pay for playing it mostly in charcoal. We collected the charcoal at the end. Now we have several different slides here. We have a big tent, big top tent that I will show here, where we had our opening ceremony and welcoming all the players. And this really could hold a lot of players. I think we had over 40 players attending the event, which was insane. And we gave a little speech here and welcomed everyone. Over here, we have a great photo opportunity for people. Now, it's said that there are giants that reside in the hills above Dolovan, and sometimes they come down from the steeps to get their feet nice and warm near a fire. So we made it tradition to make some chairs for the giants to come and sit next to and warm their feet, lest we don't want them to get upset with us for something and come stomping around the city. Now here we have kind of a mystery cup game where you have to pick between the various bags, and depending on what bag you pick, you might get a lucky prize. Then we had some jumping puzzles here as well to kind of have people jump around, and this is kind of like what our builders do on a day-to-day basis. So we, are sharing some of that fun with others. And I do like the flag that we made on the top here, and you'll notice that they're all pointing in the same direction, so we accounted for wind. And then right here, this is called Wormskull Manor, and I like how Wormskull just has everything named with Wormskull in it. I think that's me doing that, not him. But either way, a dark figure came with all of the fair travelers, and he put a temporary mansion here, but it's all dark on the inside, and there happens to be a lot of garlic scattered about. I don't know what that's all about, but other than this individual did come from the region of Gothia. And it's quite a difficult puzzle to get through. It's 3 stories, and there's a couple of different paths that you can use to get to the top. Only one true path, but it is a maze, a dark maze, which is pretty cool. Then over here, we do have it's letting people know that, hey, by the way, it's potentially dangerous. You could die. That's what the scythe's for. And this is a climbing wall. So players can climb up this wall and get to the very top. This was a really popular attraction here at the Golden Festival. And then we have just a couple of other various locations. And the giant not death slides, perfectly safe slides. And we actually have a video of all the attendees flying down from this. It was quite the sight to see. Now, that is the Golden Festival grounds, the Golden Cove, and we also have a bridge here. This was made by Dodsey. And then we also have the various towers here that were made by Torden. I can show these as well. So it's kind of the Golden City extended a little bit on the other side. And these towers are incredible. Torden is great at making towers and kind of showing off a lot of new building techniques that are possible just with various pieces and various things. Making these stairs kind of fit the right way in order to get down. And these to go all the way down to the water and past. So really, really amazing work that we've been able to kind of collaborate in this way. And this is something that's truly unique to the Golden Company. So if you think that you're a builder, if you're a teammate, if you want to participate in all of the craziness that is building, maintaining, and protecting the Golden City, you don't have to be a builder necessarily. You can be a gatherer, you can be a a fighter, an explorer, but all of those roles are necessary in order to make something as incredible as this. And I truly do think this is what we're meant to be doing in Pax Dei, if not as a general player base, as the Golden Company. It's truly enjoyable to make these things for everyone. This isn't for us, this is for everyone. And if you are ever interested in participating in any of these things, I highly recommend to check the link down below. That's at least how you can get tapped into the professional gamer community. And most of the people who are at the professional gamer community, they will get updates on where the Golden City is. Once you get there, you can join the Discord for the Golden City. You can participate in anything and everything that you want to. All are welcome. And we really are building this for everyone else. And I think I've said that a million times throughout the course of this 2-hour and 10-minute video, but it's something that we're really passionate about and we love to share in the fun with everyone. Golden City 6 was an incredibly fun experience, and I hope you all enjoyed the tour of just all of the amazingness that is this city. I'm going to miss it, but I'm also incredibly excited for what the future holds with GC7 and beyond. And it's such an incredible experience. And I would like to take a moment also to just thank all of the members of the Golden Company, the Golden Citizens, and the rest of the community on Danu who showed up to all of our events, participated, built the city for the Golden Company members. And, you know, this is thousands of hours of work that have all been put into this. And we all did it knowing that it was going to get deleted at some point, and we'd get the opportunity to keep coming back and keep building more and keep practicing and making amazing structures, amazing community, amazing events for all to enjoy. And I think we're on the right track. I think there's still a lot to learn and a lot more to explore and find out, but this was an incredible experience up until this point. I hope you enjoyed watching this over 2 hours of tour footage of the Golden City. If you're interested in learning more about opportunities to join the Golden Company, please reach out to me on Discord. You can do that again by joining the Professional Gamer Discord first and foremost. And please reach out. We want to talk to you. If you want to have an event in the Golden City, also reach out. We love hosting events here. It can be your event completely. It doesn't have to be our event. We don't have to do anything other than, build whatever you need built for the purposes. We're not above or below destroying buildings if it means for a good story. So we'd love to talk in that regard as well. But thanks again, all of you amazingly professional consumers of Pax Dei and Pax Dei related content. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like. If you somehow made it through all 2 hours of footage, thank you. The algorithm thanks you. The channel thanks you for doing that. And we just love covering Pax Dei on this channel. So if you could subscribe so that you can get notified whenever we post new videos, not typically 2+ hour videos, that would help the channel out as well. And share with any of your friends who are interested in finding out what the potential of Pax Dei is. This is probably the largest city that exists in the game right now, all made by basically a group. And we're going to be expanding in the next one to more groups and more people and more players enjoying the community that we're trying to build. So I look forward to taking you along on that ride as we continue to explore Pax Dei during early access development. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But until then, I'm Altar the Professional Gamer. Golden City 6, it's been real. I'm sad to see you go, but I'm excited for Golden City 7, which is going to be in Innisgallia, located in